audible.
Okay. Yes, Farah, shall we start or is there anything?
Ma'am, you can start now. It's 8.
Okay. Okay. So kindly make me, so you have made me host already. Wonderful. Is the screen visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
So now today we will be starting with the forensic profiling, and we'll be discussing a bit about what are the tools used worldwide for the forensic testing. So what actually the forensic profiling is all about? It is a criminal profile report which is written after a crime scene and all related evidences has been collected or documented for the analysis purpose. The profiler is brought in to create a report describing some possible characteristics of the suspect, and also the profile focuses on only the physical evidences to maintain the complete objectivity when preparing the initial profile. So what actually happens once a crime scene took place, later on to analyze for the purpose of documentation, we uses this forensic profiling. And in the process of forensic profiling, we use certain psychological tests. I have mentioned there are several other tests. There are some personality tests also, like MMPI, which is thoroughly being used for the forensic profiling. But I have mentioned these 3 tools which are more oriented towards the legal rights, towards the more on the part of the forensics. So the first is competence assessment instrument for standing trial. The other one is psychopathy checklist revised. And the third one is competence assessment instrument for standing trial for defendants with mental retardation. So these tests are very older tests, like not very newly, like this CAST MR is of 1973 construction date has key. So these are some older tools. So I'll be discussing these 2 tools with you all. One is competence assessment instrument and the other one is CAST MR. We won't be, because the gathering these questionnaire was not feasible for me. So what I have is their psychometric properties with their strengths and weaknesses. So first we'll be beginning with this CAST MR. So this CAST MR, which says MR is we understood as mental retardation. Now the new term is intellectual disability as per the new criteria of DSM-5. Earlier it was DSM-4TR, which counted as mental retardation. So the basic, this CAST MR was designed specifically to test the competency of individuals who are already been diagnosed with the mental retardation, and it was it was used for to help provide them with the legal defenses, like whether, because we all are aware that there are certain legal defenses provided to those who are not mentally fit or mentally sound. So on that ground, this is one of the tool. So the CAST MR, it is consist of 50 questions which are divided as in 3 sections. So the first section, which contains 25 MCQ, which talks about like the basic legal terms. Okay, so what the convict can understand from these legal terms. So these, there are 25 questions MCQ based, asking for certain major legal terms. The second section, which contains of 15 MCQs, which are designed to test defendant's ability to assist in their own defense, like whether the convict is able to defend themselves, himself or herself. And both the first and second sections require roughly a fourth grade reading level, and the last section, which consists of 10 open-ended questions. So the other two are mostly giving you answers objectively, whereas the 10th is giving you subjective and open-ended answers, and it is regarding the defender's specific case asked orally by the examiner, like what they think the case is all about. See, whenever the conviction took place, there are always two sides that are being taken care of. One is what the truth is all about, and the other is what the victim story or the conviction story. So these two things are to be measured properly, and in the process, because the law provide legal rights to both, like whether you are on the conviction side or on the victim side, both provided with the legal rights. And in that process, the convict also gets this legal right, whether he she is able to understand in what case he or she has been convicted. So the test manual, which is provided to test administrator, with has certain scoring guidelines for each questions. So it is again a kind of you need to answer it in zero, either 1, 2 or 1 point. So it is on the basis of points you need to give, and typically the test takes between 30 to 45 minutes for the overall administration. When we talk about its strength and the weaknesses as a tool, so there is very limited peer review, because I told you this is a very old tool and still not much talked about. Like I was not able, maybe there were some certain studies also, but I couldn't find so much data on that. So yes, there is very limited peer review researches on cast MR. The researches that does exist suggest that it has high validity. In addition, because the test is specifically designed for those who have already been diagnosed as MR mentally retarded, the test is able to provide an analysis into the minds of defendants that most other tests are not designed to reach. See, because this is specifically for MR, so you can't use this with a normal client. You need to be diagnosed with the MR or the intellectual disability, then only you can administer this tool, because it has the reading ability of fourth grade. So that is something which requires, if a person who is illiterate or does not hold the reading ability of the fourth grade, won't be able to, won't be of much use to that person. So there are certain sample questions from this questionnaire, which says like, what does a judge do? Like this, to ask a person like whether he or she is able to understand the role of a judge, attorney, lawyer, or as he is either a victim or as a convict, whether he she is able to understand these legal terms, as we have mentioned earlier also, the sections in this way only divided. So, like for example, this is a question: what does a judge do? First is defends you. B, decides on the case. Third, works for your attorney. So, the next question could be like, what if the police ask you to sign something and you don't understand? What should you do? So these are certain things. You able to understand like what these questions are trying to ask? Anyone would like to mention something in between? Anyone?
Yes, they're trying to gauge that if the person is aware that there is a legal system that is keeping a tap or a check on the behavior of its citizens.
So are you able to identify like these statements are from the section A, which talks about the legal, basic legal terms, or
Yeah.
are from the section B, which asks for the defender's ability to assist within on their defense? Both these items are talking about which section? Are you able to identify? Let me repeat, let me reframe my question.
Yeah.
As we have discussed earlier, there are 3 sections, 50 questions in total. divided into 3 sections. First section is of 25 MCQ, second section of 15 MCQ, and the third is for 10 open-ended questions. So the first two MCQ based. So first is on the part of legal terms, and the second talks about how much the person is able to defend himself or herself. So now my question is, these two items, like both are the MCQs. So can you identify like from which section these are taken, like from the first legal terms or the second defender's assistance?
It should be A, legal.
May I know who is? Okay, Varsha ji. Okay, so it's
A.
legal. Why so? Can you please
I
explain
mean,
why legal so?
because judge is the part of the judicial system.
So I'm asking about whether judge, what do I think judge do? What is the work? So it is talking about how much I know about the legal aspects of the thing. So even
Okay.
second question is saying the same thing. What if the police asks you to sign something and you don't know, don't understand? So it is also something that is legal thing which I might not understand there. See, a fourth grader, expecting a fourth grader to know what you are going to sign is not expected. Yes. So these all things would require some of their own understandings and some of their own concepts about that thing.
Yeah, that is for sure. See, before, like I might have forgot to mention this, but for these tools also to be administered, the lawyer's permission, the conviction on whom it has been administered, the prior consent is important on both the parts. So consent to is taken, like for the person who is not mentally sound, usually the person who is assisting them gives permission on their behalf. So consent is given to them. But why don't you think that this is not limited to this legal terms only, but on the part of like whether they are able to defend themselves or not?
The second question, I think it is more, it's trickier, and it falls on both the dimensions that you talked about. The second part of it, what should you do? Yeah. So does the defendant
Yes.
know that?
So the first item is from section A and the second item is from section B. Okay, so first, like because it has already mentioned the legal terms, the legal term would be like, do you understand what is FIR? Do you know what is a convictor or who is a victim? Like these, the legal or the legal terms which are like the judge ka part ho gaya, the courtroom. Do you understand the courtroom? And whereas in the second section, if you are asking, try to ask them how much you are able to defend yourself in your defense. Though you, because again you, the point rightly mentioned, like you are expecting a fourth grade reading ability person to think in this way, and that too of MR. So yes, this is again a thing to be ponder upon. The next scale in this is CAI, that is Competency Assessment Instrument. So the CAI's primary goal is to provide a comprehensive evaluation of competency to stand trial, like whether the person is competent enough or not to be convicted or to stand the trial. The CAI is a semi-structured oral interview designed to test 13 different legal skills such as quality of relating to attorney and understanding of court procedure. See, again, this is somehow related to the section B we have observed in the CAST MR scale. And understanding of the course procedures. The test typically takes between 30 to 45 minutes. Although the CAI manual does not provide formal scoring criteria, it does provide suggested like 1 to 5 scoring scale. Like 1 is for total incapacity, like the person is incapable as competent enough to stand the trial, and the no incapacity for the 5th score. The strength and the weakness. In light of the fact that the CAI provides no formal scoring procedure, because we have studied so far, because it is almost asking about the quality and the skills. So using the CAI scales to reach formal conclusion isn't really a possibility, because it is again an open-ended kind of, and more on subjective part comparatively to the other we discussed earlier. Because it is CA does not have a formal scoring, it is not technically a formal psychological assessment. However, it can be used to alert attorneys to potential competencies issues in their cases, because this is actually providing aid to the attorneys, not onto the convictor side. The sample question, it has said, like, do you have confidence in your lawyer? What do you think would happen if you spoke out or moved around in the courtroom without permission? Suppose a witness against you lied in the courtroom, what would you do? So these are certain examples of the statements. So are you able to understand, like, for example, if I ask you for this, suppose a witness against you lied in the courtroom, what would you do? Can you tell me, like, what kind of hidden, or shall we say, what kind of latent domain this item is trying to consider? Not to be domain, the factor which could come up in this statement. Can anyone of would you like to try on these items? Anyone? These three items. First is, do you have confidence in your lawyer? What do you think would happen if you spoke out of or moved around the courtroom without permission? And the third one is, suppose a witness against you lied in the courtroom, what would you do? So what these three statements suggest to you? Anyone? Is anyone saying something? I'm not able to hear.
First is, I think, quality of relating to attorney. Second is, again, understanding of court procedure. And third, again, is understanding of court procedure.
Okay, anything else? Anyone? Like, how it is able to show you the competency?
See, it is actually, this test is testing 13 different legal skills. Okay. So when you talk about confidence in your lawyer, I'm talking whether he is, do I feel that he is legally skilled as a lawyer? Okay. So this is the actually, I think so this CAI is done on the person who is going to take part in the legal procedure. So whether he has
Trial.
confidence. So the person who is undergoing to trial, so he should have faith on his lawyer, then only the case could be worked out well. Otherwise he will not reveal the truth part of the thing ever. So this part needs to be clarified. So this skill, this would tell you whether that the person trusts that lawyer or not.
Yeah.
Next, that is first step which is required in any legal procedure. Okay. Next is, what do you think what will happen? So this second question will be telling about how far the person knows about the decorum which should be followed in a court. Okay. If suppose any type of person can be there on trial. Okay. An illiterate person or a very educated person, everybody can be there. Okay. So from illiterate person, I would not expect how to behave well in a court. So I have to teach them some of the things before presenting them onto the court. Okay. Like some of the things are really offensive, considered as an offense in a court. So those things should be known to everybody before going there. Okay. And the third one is, suppose a witness against you lied in the court room, what would you do? Okay. So this can happen to any person. Okay. And part of this question lies on the confidence of the lawyer. Okay. If the person, If the person has confidence in his lawyer, he will trust. If the witness is telling a lie, my lawyer will somehow make something
Defend me.
happen and then save me on the court. If the first answer he is having a yes, then the third answer also he will have a yes, so that he will trust that yes, my lawyer will somehow make me safe. Then
Yeah,
only the procedure could work well for them. Otherwise, the court legal procedure will not at all go well.
that's true. So again, this shows that how much the trustability, like you have already mentioned, and also it gives an idea whether to choose this case or not, isn't it? Like it is giving you an idea whether I can go with this person or not, whether shall I take this case or not. Because if the person is not, it is being said now, you need to trust on your lawyer and the doctors fully. You can't hide, you should not hide anything from a lawyer or doctor, otherwise you would be in some of the mishap. So it is like on the same way. So these two tools which I have discussed in this slide, somebody has said something. Sukhsiddhi has said, does this scale has translations in different languages? Sukhsiddhi, sorry, I won't be a right person to answer this question, because these are the those two tools which I have forwarded. I have studied, but not so much very, I would say, popular. So I am not assured, and also I'm not aware whether these are being translated. But when we talk about the Indian context, yes, then I do know. We do not we have the other thing which we'll be discussing in the further slide. uh, I'll be coming on that part in the next slide, because so is it standardized on Indian population? No, it is not for the Indian population, as I have told earlier. No, it is not for the Indian population. Again, these tools are, I would say, because I have mentioned it was constructed in 1973, and it was constructed in the Harvard laboratory in the counseling under this counseling category of, sorry, the community psychiatry setting under the Harvard laboratory in 1973. So this is their tool. And majorly, if you have observed, the forensics is not so, like, now the boon has coming, like now people are very affectionate towards the forensic sciences, the forensic psychology, though it was earlier also, but now the keen interest in the field of psychology, I have seen from the last 10 years, there is a change, there is a shift in this affection toward the forensic psychology. Otherwise, we have seen, we are used to see the movies like the James Bond 007. Again, though used to have the detective stories we had, but not so much of the psychological tests or the psychological areas were talked about. This is something which is, for a country like India, is very new in the context of psychological testing. But we do use brain mapping, which we will be discussing in the further. So this is how the offender profiles are being constructed. Again, this is not on the Indian background. It is from, I have extracted this from some of the WordPress site. So it talks about what is actually the offender profile is all about, what is its history, what are the, like, what are the profiles to be done, and all these areas are being mentioned under this fact sheet. The thing that I was talking about is yeah, brain mapping. Like, because we are like, you have also asked about the Indian population. So yes, like I have mentioned this, in 2003, Professor Dr. C and Mukundan, a neuroscientist, discovered the technique of brain electrical oscillation signature, BEOS. This is commonly known as the brain mapping test. Have you heard of this term earlier? Anyone? Have you heard about this test?
Yes, ma'am, I have heard about this.
Where can you, if you could be like able to share?
I think I have read it somewhere. And when I see in this place about neuroanalysis and lie detectors, so in lie detectors, yes, we try to see how many times they say lie and how many times, what all events will tell they are saying a lie or they are telling the truth.
Hmm.
Not
See,
much
because in
about it.
correct. See, even if I talk about the positions, yes, in the Indian context, we focus more on the polygraph testing. We focus more on the lie detection. uh, we are very less, or I would say a few, like now the researchers are coming up, like these tests are validated and reliable, now they are being used, but mostly most of the authorities trust more on the polygraph testing. And even we do have the position, the higher positions in the CBI, etc., for the polygraph testers also, for the psychologist. So this is actually the brain mapping technique. It was introduced in 2003. Now we are in 2023. It's already 20 years now. So this in brain mapping test, like the sensors are attached to the subject's head. Have you seen biofeedback mechanism? Has any of you biofeedback?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Biofeedback mechanism goes completely like a cycle from
Hmm.
brain to
Hmm.
part of your body. Then chemical
Hmm.
changes happen there that will initiate something back, and then back to the brain it will go. So all of as a circle it continues.
So does it measure like it does it work as polygraph also, the biofeedback?
Yes, you can say, because it will also give the graphs for various chemicals that run in your body. Uh, Various hormones and various yes, biochemicals that play role in various emotions, moods and everything that shows it
Are you
will.
sure?
Yes, yes, ma'am, it will show like that, because one of the chemical will go high, then the other either other will fall or other will go high, depends, it is connected with each other.
Okay, but because so far I have read and seen, like the biofeedback does not work on the skin galvanization, because polygraph test works with your skin, and they are not able to provide with your skin galvanization whether it is telling you a lie or not. But maybe I might be wrong. So I will be like checking it once again, and I would suggest you also to go through
Yes,
it
I'll
once again.
also do that.
Yeah, so that it would be better if we not share a wrong information. We'll study for that part. Okay, so let's let's not discuss it further. So let's get back to this brain mapping. So this, if he connects to any of the shown images, like, so what they do in brain mapping, they show you so it only measures whether you are anxious or not. Yes, Sukhsiddhi, that's what I was telling also. But because it is not used as a lie detector, but let's see, will like get back to this, not the lying part. Yes, so we'll get back to it again. Let's just have a good read again. Maybe I might be wrong. I'm not I won't be saying like this. Okay, so yes, in the brain mapping, this they used to sit in front of the monitor, and the person is showed bunch of images from the crime scene. And because we as a human, we tend to react with the things which are in our past of memory, or we have seen somewhere, or even if, like, oh, it's a aha moment, oh, we have seen something, oh, this has happened, or even if the some of the reaction or emotion you perform. So in this way only they connected any of the shown images and brain activities, and it has been traced, like, wow, how is this familiar or involvement in the crime. And then brain mapping testing is, however, proven to be more effective than the narco analysis and lie detector test, like I was mentioning earlier also, and the results are more accurate. For instance, I have mentioned this case in October 2019. Police department were finally able to crack a 7 years old case where a man allegedly murdered his lover's husband in 2011. like the Kamal Singla and Shakuntala conspired to murder the deceased, like Shiv Kumara, and a lie detector test was conducted in the investigation process, which stated that both accused were truthful in their statements. But in fact, they were the culprits. Unsatisfied with the findings of the case, the crime branch conducted brain mapping test, which revealed the truth. Like earlier, the lie detector and the narco analysis were proving that both were not guilty, but later on this brain mapping test was able to find out yes they were guilty or not. So that was all from my end for the purpose of forensics. So now we'll be moving on the clinical setting part. We'll be discussing a bit about the BDI, that is Back's depression inventory. Most of us have seen this BDI with us or have used or read about it earlier as well. So we'll be discussing its psychometric properties basically. So the Beck depression inventory is of 21 items self-report rating inventory that measures characteristics, attitudes, and symptoms of depression. It has been developed in different forms, including several computerized forms, a card form, site, and also the 13 item short form, and BDI2, which we use currently. Like now, even when we teach to the students, we usually come across with the BDI2. Moreover, the BDI takes approximately 10 minutes to complete, although the clients require a 5th, 6th grade reading level to adequately understand the questions. The internal consistency for the BDI ranges from 0.73 to 0.92 with a mean of 0.86. The similar reliability have been found for the 13 item short form. The BDI demonstrate high internal consistency because these items are very much correlated with alpha coefficient of 0.86 and 0.81 for psychiatric and non-psychiatric populations respectively. So you all have checked out the scale with you all. I have already shared the scale with you in the GCR, right? Have you checked? Hello, yes or no? Just and if you are nodding your head because your camera are not open, I can't see if you are nodding your head. Okay, so the tool I have provided you has not mentioned about the domains it is measuring, but here in this 21 items I have mentioned about the areas that it is being mentioned. So let's have, yes, this is BDI2, correct. So this, for example, let's move to the 7th item. Can you just check out these 4 statements? Anyone would read these 4 statements for the 7th item? Anyone could do so?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
7th is for self-dislike. I feel the same about myself as ever.
Mhm.
I have lost confidence in myself. I am disappointed in myself. I dislike myself.
Okay, so as the domain says, the self-dislike. So don't you think the 4th item says everything? Isn't it? Like if any of the person agrees on the 4th statement, the person would be thought to be agreed on the above 3 as well. Yes or no? Right?
Yes, yeah, yes, ma'am.
Anyone would like to mention which kind of scaling it has used? Which type of scale it is using? We all have studied these in our classes. Like, okay,
4-point
anyone?
Likert scale.
Likert.
Yes, Likert.
What do you think about the Likert scale is all about? Likert is all about rating only. Anyone? Achha, there are certain scales you might have heard the term. Let me just make the name so that you might be able to. Measuring the intensity of symptoms. Yes, it is measuring the intensity of symptoms. Correct. It is measuring the intensity of symptoms. But I have mentioned one point, that if a person agrees on the higher order of the statement, then the person would be automatically would be agreed on the above three. For example, like the seventh statement, it says self dislike. If I agree on I dislike myself, isn't doesn't it says like I am like I am disappointed in myself, yeah, I have lost confidence in myself, don't it justifies that? Agreed. Suksidi, on what part you are agreed? Because you are sharing just in just one word, so I'm not able to comprehend. So you might have heard the terms like the Likert scaling, Thurston scaling. Have you heard these terms? ऐसे सुना है हमने इनके नाम? Apart from Likert, ऐसे Thurston का नाम सुना हो? Anyone?
Yes, ma'am. Thirdstone is also a very he made intelligence tests, I think so. Yes, he has made. Thirdstone is one of the important person who actually brought about, I think so, confirmatory and exploratory factor analysis thing. I think so. I'm not very sure. I forgot.
See, because that's what this class tends to know. The Gutman scaling, do you remember?
Yes, Gutman scale is also there.
So what used to happen in Gutman scaling?
I think so. 4 points they used to show, and out of that 1 point they have. I have read it long.
Nah,
I forgot.
no, not at all. See, actually, the Gutman scaling, or also known as like Likert scaling, is known as summative rating scale. Gutman used to called as cumulative rating scale. So Gutman, the scaling technique of Gutman says, if you, because it is a type of ordinal scaling now, so it says if you agree to the higher order na, so you will automatically agree to the lesser order also. Don't you think it is following the same? Yes or no? Like if I agree on the last statement, chalo, let's take any of the other item of your choice. Any of the item. Let's take this 10th item, like crying. So I feel like crying, but I can't. This is the higher orders. Then the lesser is I cry over every like what little thing. I cry more than I need used to, and I don't cry anymore than I used to. So, like the fourth statement, which is of the higher order, doesn't it justifies all the three? What do you think? Yes or no would help me to understand whether
It does.
it does not. So yes, that's what actually Bag's depression talks about. Okay, thank you, Sukhsiddhi, for your confirmation. So yes, that was for the part of what this BDI talks about. So this the psychometric properties. So BDI was actually designed to measure the severity of depression. See, like that day also we discussed about the MMPI in the items of MMPI. Though MMPI is a screening tool, but do you think it is used as a diagnosis tool as well? MMPI. What is the answer? Sukhsiddhi, you are saying that MMPI is used as diagnosis tool. Again, like I think we need to study on that part as well, because so far I read MMPI was initially to be discovered as a screening tool but not as a diagnostic tool. But maybe I might, again we need to study on that part again. Let's not fight over the point. So for the BDI also, it was for the screening of the severity of the part. It gives profile of paranoid schizo. See, it gives the 10 scale, like the MMPI to has 10 scales. Psychasthenia, depression, there are the other history also, like the masculinity, femininity, social introversion, there are the several. Schizophrenia, paranoia. Acha, forensic profiling. Mona Lisa, for what forensic profile you are mentioning? Please complete your statement, Mona Lisa. I'm not able to understand for what you are saying forensic profile. So till the time Mona Lisa writes her answer, let's get back to what we were discussing. So it is of 21 items we have already seen, and each item takes value of 0 to 3, where 0 indicates the lowest degree of depression and the 3 indicates the highest degree of depression. The total degrees are calculated by adding the degrees of all items, the degrees ranging between 0 and 13 indicating minimal depression. Like, because there are the 13, if you are scoring, you are on the lesser depression, you are on the minimalistic depression, and the degrees that falls between 14 to 19, it reflects moderate level of depression, and the degrees that fall between 20 to 28, it reflects moderate degree, and finally the degree of which ranges between 29 to 63, it reflects a several severe level of depression. So the back depression inventories supports, what is the answer? MMPI is using forensic profile. Yes, Mona Lisa, that's what we said also. Yeah, MMPI is being used in forensic profile as well. But my question was, is MMPI a diagnostics tool? Can MMPI, like, is it only limited to the screening tool only, or it is also a diagnostic tool for MMPI? That's what my question was. Okay. So the BDI supports three factors. First is the negative attitude towards the self, which is of the cognitive symptoms, low performance value, behavioral, and the somatic complaint, that is emotions. These are the three components. I recall it as ABC component. Okay, A is of affect, that is the emotion, B is the behavioral, and C is the cognitive. So for A, affect wala part is the somatic complaints, the bodily complaints you feel. The behavioral is on the performance value you feel, and the cognitive is all about your attitude, majorly the negative attitude towards yourself, like I am not competent enough, I don't like myself, I am very poor. So the negative attitude you show towards yourself. So that though it was designed as a screening tool rather than a diagnostic tool. So it was again designed initially for the purpose of the screening only, but not as a diagnostic. Who's answer something? Lack of self-esteem. Yeah, correct. So item characteristics, if we talk about the BDI, so the true scores of a given skill as well as its reliability, it is a result. So these are certain, the, like for example, the item suicidal thought. Uh, Somebody has mentioned something. It is a rating scale. Okay. So the item suicidal thought had the lowest endorsement rate. However, the substantial correlation still provides evidences of its contribution to the measured construct, because it was initially measuring the depression for the screening on depression, and we all are aware the ultimate result of the depression is the suicidal tendency. So we have already discussed this in the item of the suicidal part. So the item which is discussing on the suicidal thought had the very lowest part, but has, sorry, the very good correlation, which provides that it is actually contributing to the measurement of depression. The hypothesis of gender differences in somatic symptoms were not supported by, like, there are certain studies which took place in this regard, and it talks about how much particular item gives you knowledge about the construct. So these, again, this is a one of the study. It is a reliability and validity of the BDI among the Korean adolescents, which talks about the insomnia, how this insomnic, like the sleep, deficiency of sleep is ultimately moving towards to the depression. So this again a study will talk about in this way. These are certain inter-item correlation, the concurrent validity, which says, like I have already told you, BDI has the highest inter-item correlation, because it is supposed to be, as all the items in one domain are being connected to each other. We have already observed now the four statements, the ultimate statement has to be connected with the first statement, otherwise it won't follow the Gutman scaling. So for the Gutman scaling, the internal consistency is supposed to be high, and that's what it has been proven when we talk about the BDI. Now I would like to invite sir, because there are the environment for the climate change and the other school attitude study, which are being done by sir only. So sir, are you there? If you could take over from here. Hello, sir. Farah, is sir there?
Yes, Ayushi. Okay, you can continue. No problem. I am here.
Okay, sir. So we'll be discussing about like as part of your syllabus. Acha, before we proceed to this, anyone have any doubt regarding this BDI or forensic profiling? Anyone? Any doubt? Okay, so I'm considering as a no. So let's move forward. So the as per the syllabus, we need to discuss about how the psychometric is being used in the environment and also in the school. So this is a study on climate change, distress of rural and urban people. It was conducted by our sir Dr. Devdulal Dattaroy and Smita Day. So objective of this study is to examine difference in climate change, distress of rural and urban people. So data were collected from 64, it is in 31 males and 33 females, urban, and 86 total from 17 males and 69 females, rural people, with age range from 20 to 65 years. Based on the literature review, observations and discussions with the local people, 145 item rating scale with 5-point response categories range from most to least of the time was developed to assess 3 domains of distress experience in the climate change. So this was the study which has talked about the climate change distress among the rural and the urban people. Further, so there were 3 domains which were identified. First was the physical complaint, the other one was psychological distress, and the third one was the interpersonal relationship. So I'll be discussing these 3 domains separately also. First, let's know what was the result and the conclusion of the study. So the one-way ANOVA, because it was talking about the group differences. So one-way ANOVA shows that the rural people reported significantly more distress in the physical and the psychological discomfort than the urban people. Like they were on the more rural were the more in comparison to the urban, but no significant mean difference were found in perceiving difficulties in interpersonal relations for the climate change. Because see, there were 3 domains: physical, psychological, and interpersonal. So physical and psychological were high in the side of rural, whereas interpersonal has not shown as such uh, as a significant mean difference or has contributed something more into this. The rural people experience more difficulties in climate change. Results were discussed in terms of developing climate change resilience, like because it has been observed how rural people were mostly affected. Because we have seen in the urban area, we are just more onto the part of uh, we use ACs, we have so many man-made things, we have so many synthetic things which are actually depleting our climate, which is actually affecting our climate too much. But again, we are most of the time at comfort when we compare to the rural population, who are not that much resourceful, who don't have that much of uh, like these tools to address their desires or to the needs. So this is the rural urban difference has been put forth, where this distress, psychological, physical discomfort, and the interpersonal relations. One is for the urban, and the red line is for the urban, and the blue line is indicating for the rural population. The data which shows high like in which area. So can anyone interpret like in which area, in which domain highest discomfort was noted? Anyone? And by whom? Hello. Can anyone read this? Can anyone do this visualization of graph? Am I still audible? But nobody
And
wants to answer.
psychological distress looks the highest. 3 is the
Okay.
reading,
Hmm.
and that too in the rural thing.
Hmm.
Rural population, it is being observed. Actually, if you see overall map, rural population is more stressed out,
Hmm.
distressed. Okay,
Hmm.
and basically, as you said, between physical and psychological is the most. Interpersonal, they are okay, fine.
Hmm.
Urban population comparatively maintains well.
Yeah. So we
But
can see that in
interpersonal,
interpersonal, the urban population is high,
yes,
isn't
urban
it? Yeah,
population is high.
yeah, correct. Further, for the particular items, this is item for the interpersonal relations. So like cannot be able to mingle with others, whereas the other is for unwilling to keep trust on anybody. So it is the item wise data visualization, which says again for the urban you can see uh, the item which says cannot be able to mingle with others is high, and whereas in part of rural cannot be able to mingle with others is less, whereas unwilling to keep trust on anybody is high. So it shows that trust issues are more into the rural people in comparison to the urban population. Further, these items on the psychological discomforts, you can see like the feeling helplessness, adopt the conditions, awkward touching, rains, afraid of black cloud in the sky. So we can easily note it ki, which population is feeling this much of discomfort in comparison to the other part of population. So these are the certain items. Are you able to see these items? If you are not, you can just pinch it in your screen if you are using your mobile so that you can zoom in to the items. You can easily see. Like crying while rain starts with storm, become angry, unknown fears captured me during heavy rains and storm. Like, so these are certain items which shows the psychological discomfort. The further is item for the physical distress. For the physical discomfort, again this blue stands for the urban and the red stands for the rural. For the sleep disturbances due to fear is very much high in the urban population, whereas rural are just even the lesser than the half of the urban. Can you visualize this?
Yes, ma'am.
Because if you can see that that is a 70%, it is the half of the 70% would be like the 35%, but again they are the lesser than 35%. Can any of you tell me who is highest, like urban population is highest in apart from, like, sorry, the rural population is highest on in which part of physical distress? Highest, has observed highest physical distress on which item?
Heartbeat increases even after thundering.
Correct. So this is what the data visualization you can understand from this study, and so far. This is again domain-wise mean difference, which shows the distress, again the psychological, physical discomfort, and the interpersonal relation between the rural and the urban. So anything you want to add up with this climate change study? Or shall I move further for the yes?
Yeah, thank you, Ayushi. Very nicely you have presented. Here we do not find much difference in interpersonal relation in case of the rural area as well as the urban area. What are the underlying reasons? One important underlying reason is that the rural areas, they are clustered together. So they are not moving much. But in case of the urban area, we find that is they are moving much. So because the relatives, they are very close to nearby their house. But in case of the urban area, the relatives are far away. Therefore, moving to that particular place, it takes some more time and some other hindrance. So for that reason, we do not find much difference in case of the interpersonal relationship. And these data we collected from the people who are suffering from psychological distress due to the climate factor. And that is mainly nearby the Bangladesh and India border. We collected the data. We organized some focus group, and we get a lot of the information. And based upon that, the items are prepared. Whatever the items that is prepared by the observation as well as by the focus group discussion. Okay.
Okay, so I hope you understand what actually this study was. So next we move further to this school attitude. Again, this is a study conducted by sir. This is for the attitude towards school infrastructure in the rural area. So before we study, before we dive into this, what actually this study was, I wanted to ask one question from all the participants. As per you, what should be the attitude towards, like, what should be the areas that that discusses about the attitude towards the school infrastructure? Sukhsidi ma'am, it's 20. Oh, sorry. Farah, we are winding up in just minutes. Okay, so before, I hope you all can sustain me for 5 more minutes if we can continue.
Yes, ma'am, please go
Even you
ahead.
say, yeah, okay. So if we talk about the attitudes toward the school infrastructure in the rural areas, let's not talk about the rural areas. If I just ask you about the attitudes toward the school infrastructure, as per you, what should be the domain, or what should be the items, or what should be the characteristic that should define the school infrastructure? What do you understand from this? Anyone? I hope you understand what school infrastructure is all about.
The facilities that the school would be giving. So
Okay.
it would be starting from Blackboard, then
Okay,
now
nice.
it would go to smart boards,
Yeah.
then computer facilities, computer labs which they provide, then desks, bench, how are they being provided, then whether they have got washrooms, proper washrooms or not.
Very nice. Yes, the
Then
availability of the washroom,
yes,
yes.
then electricity, whether there is electricity or not.
Okay.
Some of the schools also provide projectors for their presentations and all. So whether those things are also present or not. Then books, notebooks, whether those things are there, pencil, basic,
Stationery.
small,
Yeah.
yes, stationary
Hmm.
items also, whether
Hmm.
they are present with them or not.
Hmm.
These are small things. Then
Hmm.
along with that, we will also see how the curriculum is being planned out for them.
Yeah, that's nice.
Okay,
That's
because
right.
depends how on which place we are. Like in a government school, we will not look for an excursion and everything, but if we come to a city school, an international school, if we come to, we will definitely look for how much excursions they are planning, what is the purpose of that excursion, how much they are drawing out from that excursion. These all things also matter a lot. Then we will see health, infirmary is there or not, library is there or not, quality of library, books quality, everything would count on them. To name a few, there are still many more things which we can add to it.
But I would say you have covered most of the part. Varshati, you have, like, you have already mentioned what I was supposed to teach you in this school attitude thing. Yes, this is school attitude question. The study actually talks about these areas only. What are the attitudes which defines the school infrastructure? But basically, it is in the rural areas, and this is a study of 2008. So you can see a comparative shift, a paradigm shift, if we talk about, like, now the earlier domains, like you mentioned about this Blackboard to the smart board. I remember having a study which said about transition from the Blackboard to the green board also being mentioned. Do you think it is also one of the point that to be discussed, like the transition from the Blackboard to the green board also? We are talking about Blackboard to the smart board. Have you ever seen green boards?
Yes, there are green boards also.
So, do you think it could mark off any transition for the Blackboard to the green board?
Ma'am, Blackboard was very very old time, but okay.
uh, yeah. So see again, I would say, so yeah, that's what actually the shift or the change were being observed. So yes, if you are supposed to construct a questionnaire that's supposed to ask questions on the attitude towards school infrastructure, so these were the domains like you have already mentioned. The infrastructure would include the building, right? Like the area, whether the area is being provided or not. The basic facility, like you mentioned, the washroom facility, the classroom facility, the stationery availability, because these are the basic things which construct a school, which constructs a school as an organization. So on the similar grounds, we construct questionnaires and we talk about. So these are certain matrices I have collected from the sir's work only. So this is a classification matrix of good and poor infrastructure of school. So you can see the predicted group and the like the poor infrastructure and the good infrastructure classification percentage also on your right hand side. In the table 3.2, you can easily see the what was the correlation coefficients between the socio-economic variables. See, because again, when we take up a population, we need to consider the socioeconomic status as well, because it also affects how you perceive things. The other one we have discussed is the mean difference in the discriminant functions of the classification of good and poor infrastructure. This is again the PCA, which was conducted by Sir. For the academic achievement test and the school examination result, you can see the scatter plot has been drawn between this academic achievement test and the school examination results ke beech mein. So the data has been collected on this part. So anything, sir, you want to add on this?
No, Ayushi, you have covered nicely.
Okay, sir. So yeah, there is a great Mona Lisa is congratulating you, sir, that it is a great work. She has texted this in the chat section. So yeah, that was all from my end. Hope you have understood the forensic profiling, how the BDI has been constructed, how you as a psychometrician make use of the BDI, the forensic profiling, and also how can you understand how you can construct a tool on the school attitude, on the environment and the climate change. In our next class, we will be moving to the second unit, which is on the mental testing. We'll be discussing on the WASE 4. Later on, we'll be discussing on new FFI. So that would be the plan for the upcoming classes. By tomorrow morning, you will receive a small assignment of 10 marks at 8 a.m. though I have already scheduled it, so it would be uploaded at 8 a.m. in the morning. So you have till Thursday time to cover it, but I would request you to please cover it as soon as possible. Otherwise, the work, once it gets piled up, it becomes difficult for us to cover. So that is a small suggestion from my end. Anything, any sort of feedback, anything you want to mention would be welcome. You can also convey it to Farah. That's would be from my end. So that was all from my side. Thank you so much everyone for joining. uh, Faraj, can shall we like conclude or anything to mention or say?
Uh, no, ma'am. Any doubts, students? You have like, you can take 3 minutes more. Any doubts, any comments on whatever Ayushi ma'am taught you? Anything you want to add on? Subsidy, Swati, Varsha, anything?
Something is in the chat section.
Okay, yes, Swati
yeah.
saying thank you for a lovely lecture.
Thank you for a lovely listener that you were there throughout the time. So thank you so much for being there. Anything else? Any of the doubt? Varshaji, or like, because you would be writing your dissertations, so you can even thought of how you can make use of these tools in your study. Like if you want to take, if you as a psychometrician, or if you as a new researcher, if if you are supposed to take the research of this school infrastructure attitude, so how would you take up, or how would you construct a questionnaire? You can think in this way also. You can try constructing some items, how the items should be constructed, what would be domains to be taken care, and you can even share it on the group. We all will be there, sir would be there to analyze your, because sir is very much like check things very regularly, so it would be easy if you could drop your like doubts, or if you could drop certain items you feel could be added into a questionnaire, etc. So that would be more than welcome. So yeah, that was all from my end. Farah, shall I conclude, sir? Shall I conclude?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Okay, so that was all from my end. And 14th of August, the Independence Day. So till then, bye bye, take care, have a nice day, good night, everyone.